My name is John Turlock. I'm an oil man. More specifically, I'm an oil man. I work on refineries, pipelines, tankers, oil and gas wells, and my favorite platforms. I am the best at what I do. I am in demand and take pride in my work. I have a master's degree in petroleum engineering from Texas A&M University. Because of my knowledge and experience, I now have more money than I could spend in a lifetime. Not bragging, just a fact. I can fix anything, and I can make anything I want. That's what I thought. About 16 years ago, I was completing safety inspections on several offshore oil platforms in the Mobile Bay area. One evening, I was relaxing with a group of guys at an oyster bar off La Batra Bay, just south of Mobile. It was a rowdy bunch in a rowdy bar. We were lowering our long necks almost as fast as we were devouring oysters. I began to look across the room at a woman who was taking out bivalves. She was opening the oysters like a machine. Just watching her work was mesmerizing. When she picked up a 65-pound bag of oysters with one hand and poured them out onto the table, I marveled. She was definitely ethnic. Her long black hair was tied back with a red plaid bandana. She had dark and deep-set eyes under eyebrows that had never been plucked. Her nose was large, with a bump in the middle, something rarely seen in women. She had a large mouth and thin lips that matched the rest of her face perfectly. I had seen and met many women from all over the world, but this one was the first one I wanted to have as my own. Her hands were hard and calloused and showed evidence of years of work. She was not a beautiful young girl. She was a sturdy woman and fit to be the wife of a sturdy man. "Hey, John, what the hell are you staring at her for?" Nothing. I was just watching that girl shuck oysters. I can't take my eyes off her." "Hey, guys, John's checking on Marie." A lot of hooting and cheering followed. Marie looked up at the commotion at the other end of the room. I was caught off guard and a little embarrassed. From the other end of the bar, another of my recent co-workers shouted, "You must be wishing John dead!" I quickly tried to save face by ordering another round of drinks for the crew. We spent another hour sucking down beer and oysters, but I caught myself furtively glancing at Marie every chance I got. Bill Connor watched me stare at her and finally leaned over to me. "John, she's bad news. If you want to date her, you have to get her brother's permission. That's never happened before. You see that guy by the bar wearing the John Deere cap?" "Yeah, so?" "Last year he decided to get permission to go out with Marie. He went to Slidell to see his brothers. There's 3 of them, Clyde, Claude, and Clarence. They beat the shit out of him, drove him here, and dumped him on the porch. He couldn't work for a week. He hasn't spoken or even looked at Marie since." "What the hell is so special about her?" "You tell me, because you're the one who's been looking at her all night." "Bill, she's just adorable. If I don't spend time with her, I'll regret it for the rest of my life." "It's your funeral." After a while, I stood up and walked over to the John Deere cap. "Can I buy you a drink?" "What? Are you gay or something?" "No, not by any means. Just wanted to ask you about your experience with Marie's brothers." "It was a bad experience. I wanted to ask Marie out and she explained that I had to ask permission. My job has me traveling that way, so I decided to stop by her brother's house. They lived on the bay shore just south of Slidell. All 3 were thin and wiry. They didn't have an ounce of fat on them. They laughed merrily at me and made remarks I couldn't understand. The oldest, I think his name was Clarence, told me that I should punch each of them in the face to get Marie off my back. If I wanted to marry her, I had to beat them all at the same time. It was a game to them." "Sounds a little crazy to me." "It was. They weren't normal. I defeated the first one pretty quickly. It hurt, but I was able to hold off the second one. That left Clarence, and he beat the shit out of me. He was a kickboxer, and I wasn't expecting a kick to the mouth. By the time I came to my senses, he was already on top of me. The son of a bitch broke my jaw with a leg kick and a couple of ribs for extra convincing." "It hurts just thinking about it. Any suggestions?" "Yeah, don't go." I like a challenge. "Well, if you insist, I'd suggest you deal with Clarence first and watch his feet. Whatever you do, don't fight fair." "Thanks." I put a 20 on the counter to pay his bill for the rest of the evening. As I approached the counter, Marie stopped wiping her feet and walked over to it. She had a half-smile, half-grin on her face. I just stood there looking at her. She was even more mysterious up close, and I was sure I had made the right decision. Her rubber apron was wet with oyster juice and bits of shells. Wiping her hands on the towel, she looked up at me without saying anything. Droplets of sweat glistened on her face and hands. "You need to get married. Where can I find your brothers?" 4 miles south of Slidell on Highway 11. Look for the sign for Boudreaux's Landing on the right. They're at the end of the road. "Thank you. We'll be married tomorrow at noon. Be ready. I'll pick you up here." "How will I know you were there?" "You'll tell me." "Bring my brother Clarence's leather hat." As I turned to leave, she added, "If you can't handle them, you can't handle me either." I tossed a couple of 20s on the table and said goodnight to the guys. On my way to the door, I got a couple verbal jabs from them. I turned and looked at her one more time before leaving. She yelled across the room, "I'm coming to visit you in the hospital." Damn, I loved this woman. It took me 2 hours to find the stairs. The brothers came down from the porch to greet me. I recognized Clarence by his tattered leather hat. He looked like Crocodile Dundee. He asked me what I wanted when I approached them. I said I wanted his hat. As he looked at his brothers and laughed, my shoe hit his balls. I grabbed his hat as he fell and put it on my head. Clyde and Claude pounced on me, and both fell with one punch. 3 hours later, Marie and I were married. She wore a white cotton dress, and I wore a leather hat. I had my own Cajun queen. The sex was great and remained so throughout our marriage. We both seemed to be happy with each other. The more time I spent with her, the more I loved her. Marie and I built a house near Reading. It was big and expensive. The kitchen was her pride and joy. It had a tile floor and all stainless steel appliances. A heavy wooden harvest table stood in the center of the kitchen. Life was good, with a few exceptions. I was missing too much work, and we didn't have kids yet. Finally, Timothy came along, followed by Mark and Robert. We had 3 beautiful boys, and Marie was happy. After we were married, Marie worked for a while, not because we needed the money, but because she wanted something to do while I was traveling the world. I would go away for months at a time doing various assignments related to my field. There was always more work than I could handle, and she was always away. After Timothy was born, she continued to work, but quit when Mark came along. She did a great job raising them. Unfortunately, I wasn't so good as a father. Marie never complained. The boys were 6, 8, and 10 years old. For some reason, I decided we should all get a full physical and make sure all of our medical histories were up to date. Marie wasn't thrilled with the idea, but seemed compelled to go along with it. I didn't understand, but to make things easier, I suggested that she go for the checkup first, and the boys and I go the next day. 2 days later, the doctor called and asked me to come in to review the results of the exam. Marie insisted that I go alone and stated that she would be happy with any decisions I had to make. "John, it looks like the news is all good." Donald Curry has been our family doctor since we moved to Reading. He also delivered all 3 of the boys. "That's good to hear." "I won't go into Marie's examination results unless you think it's necessary. I'll just say that she's perfectly fine and has no immediate problems to worry about." "That's fine, Doc. I have no intention of prying into her personal affairs. Both hers and your file are pretty complete. The only thing I'd like is more information about the medical history of the boys' biological fathers. That would allow us to better navigate if there were any problems in the future." For a few moments, I sat in silence. I was trying to digest what he'd just told me and didn't know what to say back. "Could you repeat that, please?" "I'm sorry, John, that I didn't make myself clear enough. I just think that if we could get some information on the fathers, it would give us a database in case something happens in the future. I just need your permission to request the data." "I'm a little confused, Doctor. Are you saying I'm not the father of my sons?" I watched as a surprised expression appeared on his face, and he seemed to fidget slightly in his chair. He rummaged through his files for a bit, and then slowly looked up at me. "You didn't know, did you, John?" I didn't answer him. I just sank into my chair and stared across the room at one of those stupid medical charts that hung on the walls of the office. It was a passionate moment. I didn't know whether to cry or be angry, but most of all, I was overwhelmed with frustration, if you could call it an emotion. "Doc, let me call you back. I have something I need to take care of." When I stood up, I could see he was worried. It seemed everyone but me knew I wasn't the boy's father. I was in unfamiliar ground. I didn't know what to do. It was a feeling I didn't get very often. As I walked away, I turned around one last time. Doc, you said fathers. There's more than one. John, each of your sons has their own biological father. I sighed, nodded, and headed home. She was sitting at the kitchen table when I got home. She knew. I figured Doc Curry had let her know after I left. I don't blame him. It was probably a good idea. I picked up the long neck and sat down across from her. Speak up. I'm listening. I was worried, she began. It's been 3 years, and I still haven't gotten pregnant. I knew how much you wanted children, so I went and got tested, several times. Each time I was told I was fine. I couldn't ask you to check myself, so I took a sample, don't ask, and got it myself. You're sterile, John, not weak. Sterile. It was a shocking revelation, but somehow it made sense. At least now I had a reason. There were alternatives, John. We could have adopted a child, or we could have considered artificial insemination. Both options would have forced me to give you the bad news. I was afraid it would depress you, destroy your spirit, or possibly cause you to leave me. I couldn't take that risk. I guess that's when I made my mistake. I stood up and grabbed another beer. And what was the mistake? The mistake was Timothy's father. Let me get to the last question. It's a little complicated. All right. Start with Robert. I need a beer. I waited a few moments for her to settle in. You've been to Samoa. I didn't even know Samoa had oil. Anyway, the washing machine started, and I called a plumber. Bob Monsanto had a private business in Boyertown. He looked and acted just like you. He even had a similar way of speaking. He was tall, strong, and confident. After he fixed the washing machine, I offered him coffee and started chatting with him. 2 hours later, he had me bent over the washing machine. We didn't even get undressed. 3 days later, you were home, and 3 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. Looks like I'm going to have to visit Mr. Monsanto. Don't worry, Robert was killed in a 3-car accident on the Schuylkill Expressway 4 years ago. And you named the baby Robert in his honor. How appropriate. It wasn't a slip of the tongue at you, it just made things easier in my mind. It wasn't easy for me to do it. It's not in my nature to tease or seduce men. I wasn't very good at it, but I got the job done. You were so happy with Timothy, and you said several times that he should have a brother. It was a chance, and I took it. You want to tell me about Mark's father? I poured us a couple more bottles of Foster's. I met Mark Langford at the DMV. You were in Holland doing something with Union Oil. Mark and I started chatting while we were standing in line. He was renewing his driver's license before going to Iraq. We ended up having lunch at the peanut bar, and I got fucked in the men's room. You would have liked him. He was tall, very muscular, and fun. I told him what I wanted, and he agreed. Neither of us seduced him. It was almost like a business deal. I treated him to lunch. So Mark is named after his father? She didn't respond to the obvious tease. Mark didn't come back from Iraq. He had a funeral service at Indiantown Gap. I almost went, but I changed my mind at the last minute. We both sat in silence for what seemed like several minutes, but it was probably only a few seconds. Okay, now tell me about Father Timothy and why he was a mistake. When I first decided I was going to do this, I had no plan of action. I set out to find someone who looked like you. I had no idea what I was doing or how I was going to handle it. Of course, it all had to be planned around your work schedules. I found Timothy at the farmer's market in Leesport. He had a stall selling model trains and accessories. I wasn't interested in trains, but he looked and acted so much like you that I was mesmerized. Like I said, I had no idea what I was doing. Long story short, I started dating him. I didn't wear wedding rings. The more time I spent with him, the more time I wanted to spend with him. Marie, I don't think I like where this is going. I know. I didn't think you'd like it. That's why I saved it until last. Go on. We have to finish this before the kids get home from school. John, you were strong, smart, successful, and larger than life. You were and still are a man above most people. Timothy is the exact opposite. He is sensitive and understanding. He's easy to talk to and always willing to listen. Are you saying you prefer him to me? No, John, never. You're both different. You're both perfect in your own way. The main difference is that you're my husband, the man I got engaged to. The fact that I had to break my vows to give you the children you wanted tears me apart. I hoped it would make you happy and proud. I'm sorry it's all fallen apart. But you feel sympathy for him? Yes, I do. So, what happened? You were in Antarctica. It was a long trip, but you were supposed to be home soon. I dated Timothy for a few weeks. He wasn't a skillful seducer, and I wasn't very good at it either. I finally managed to get him into bed in his apartment and have sex with him. It was awkward, to say the least. I think it was his first time, but I'm not sure. I was hoping to get pregnant, so I figured I should at least give it a couple tries. It wasn't a hard decision for John to make because I loved being around him. I know it's not what you want to hear, but I'm trying to be honest with you. So what went wrong? Timothy proposed to me. He bought a ring that was too expensive, got down on his knee and proposed formally, just like in the movies. He was crushed when I said no, and of course wanted to know why. When I told him I was already married, I thought he was going to cry. That was the last time I saw him. You came home a week later and I found out I was pregnant. Why did you say that meeting was a mistake? Because I got involved. I got too close to the baby's father and let it get out of control. I made sure the next two meetings were quick and dirty. Fortunately, both of them worked out on the first try. Do you want me to talk to Timothy? God, no! I crushed the poor guy. He doesn't deserve any revenge on your part. If you feel the need, take it out on me. I'm the one who cheated. I'm the cheater. I broke our vows. Do what you want to me, but don't take it out on Timothy. I sat holding the empty bottle as Marie got up and went into the bedroom. I drank 2 more long necks and spent the night in the chair. I'm an oil man. I can fix anything. Finding out where Timothy McClure had moved to wasn't difficult. I didn't say anything to Marie, but Saturday morning the boys and I drove to Lancaster to the Steampunk Model Train Center. Timothy had successfully moved his model train business and gave it a steampunk-style makeover. It wasn't a large-scale endeavor, but it was impressive. The boys were thrilled. I spent the first 10 minutes with the boys and then walked over to the counter, which I realized Timothy was sitting behind. Hi, nice place you have here. Are you the owner? Timothy McClure, and you are? He held out his hand. John Turlock. I wasn't sure he'd find common ground with Marie, so I just agreed. Are you just passing through? No, we were traveling here on purpose. You don't mind if we spend some time looking around, do you? Not at all. That's why I've worked so hard to arrange things here. But I'd like to move to a bigger place. We ended up having a couple cups of coffee each and spent 30 minutes chatting about nothing. Are you married, Timothy? Do you have children? No, unfortunately. I came close once, but it didn't work out. No alternatives? Never. I thought about it, but Marie was the only woman I considered. Water under the bridge. I have to move on. I take it you like children. Of course! I'd give anything for a brood like yours. You're a lucky man, John. I leaned back in my chair and couldn't keep from smiling. I'm an oil man. I can fix anything. Timothy, I'm going to offer you the deal of a lifetime. It's been 18 months since I left Reading. For the last 3 months, I've been freezing my ass off here in Prudhoe Bay. The best part of the day was finishing my shift in the break room. Who knew cold beer could taste so good in northern Alaska? I had my crew with me and we were celebrating the first oil from the new barrel. 3 of them were from the old Bayou La Batre gang. We had been there for about an hour when I noticed a very tall blonde Amazon sitting at the other end of the room. She had an equally large blonde-haired male companion with her. It was strange to see women working on the North Slope, especially women of her level. I couldn't take my eyes off her. Even from across the room, I could see that her eyes were crystal blue. I watched as she reached up and unraveled her hair. The golden curls scattered as she shook her head from side to side to untangle them. She noticed me looking at her and gave me a small, sly smile. It was like a dare. Rusty? Who is that woman who just walked in? I've never seen her before. Her name is Isolda Sorokina, and next to her is her brother Radomir. They came from Chukotka to do excavation work. God damn, he's a big sucker. This is their 3rd trip here. A few guys tried to hit on her, but nothing good came of it. Radomir doesn't speak English very well, but he knows how to convince guys to leave his sister alone. You mean physically? Oh, yes, but that doesn't last long. He's not violent, but he's quick. Perhaps I ought to talk to him? Oh, no, John, not that. Last time you pulled this crap, you ended up getting married. I remember Alabama. Well, I'm not married anymore, Rusty. I got divorce papers last week. I'm single again and on the prowl. Damn! I never thought you'd leave Marie. She was the best thing that ever happened to you. What the hell happened? I didn't dump her, Rusty. It was a mutual agreement. I even set her up with a new husband. Has she gotten married yet? Next week. I just received an invitation to the wedding. I don't think I'm going, though. John, are you saying you've chosen a new husband for her? Well, not exactly. He's a great guy, and I think they'll be fine. Rusty, I'm not cut out for family life, and it wasn't fair to her and the boys. It was a hard decision, but I felt I had to do the right thing. And what is it doing? Well, let's just say he's a railroader. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to talk to that Russian guy about his sister.